Hey, what's going on, everyone? How's it going? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Stranger Days After Dark, where I take a look at stories that are definitely wild, definitely crazy, and definitely too small to make videos out of. But tonight we have a collection of a bunch of wild ones from around the world, some that are funny, some that are dumb, and some that are downright dastardly and terrible. Be sure to hang out all the way through, get to the end, and leave your comments. And if you haven't already, please toss it a thumbs up, toss it a like, and check back at least once a week for more of these Stranger Days After Dark. All right, let's begin. Okay, so first things first tonight, guys. First things first. Man divorces his wife after finding her on Google Maps having an affair. Now, we all know that infidelity is a real big cause of breakup in our world today. But how would you feel about finding your old lady, your partner, engaged in an affair when you discovered it by surfing through Google Maps? You figure the one thing that would never do you dirty like that would be Google Maps. It says here, in the old days, if you suspected your partner was cheating on you, you'd hire a PI. He'd snap some photos, tell you that you really don't want to see these, and then when you do look at them, he'd pour you a stiff drink and give you a talk about how you'll be okay. Maybe that's just in noirs and not real life, but in any case, who needs a private eye when Detective Google Maps is on the case? At least that's what happened to an individual in Peru when he tried to find a bridge in Lima, but instead found a photo of a woman who looks a lot like his wife, canoodling with another man in her lap, and that's exactly what it was. The photo was taken in 2013 when the woman's wife confronted her about it, probably when the woman's husband confronted her about it. She admitted it was an affair, and the couple is currently headed for divorce. No news if the man found the bridge in Lima or not. So this is recent. This is from October. This is from October 11th. This is just 9 days ago. So just imagine that for a hot moment, right? Imagine that. You're sitting there, you're in Peru, you're like, I gotta find this bridge. For some reason, this bridge means the world to me. I gotta find this bridge. And then, all of a sudden, you're looking around, you're like, wait a minute, that woman looks familiar. What's going on? What's going on? Oh, wow, it's an affair. And this was 5 years prior. So that image of her cheating on her man is 5 years old, which does make me ask the question. Really does make me ask the question. How much, was it still going on? Was the affair still happening? Was she still getting some D on the side? We, of course, don't know. This is just a lighthearted article about a man's heartbreak. So I don't know much it's lighthearted, but still, that's just where it's at. But you got to think it's pretty funny, though, that this is what busts people sometimes. We always think it's like instant, it's like Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook have destroyed more lives than they build. But when you look at Google Maps, you don't think Google Maps is gonna end up destroying something. You think it's meant to help you see the world, right? To help you understand the world in places you don't live, but instead it actually shows you, it shows your significant other with another man. Can't really feel that good now, can it? Let's take a look here at this next one. This next story is fucked up. This is pretty fucked up in my opinion. A man who put an abortion-inducing drug in his girlfriend's drink gets 22 years in prison. Guy puts an abortion-inducing drug in his girlfriend's drink. But what's crazier about the story is, I've already read it, but what's crazier about this is it's not at all what you think in regards to just that headline. It says a man who was accused of putting an abortion-inducing drug in his girlfriend's drink was sentenced to 22 years in prison. Manish Kumar Patel was convicted in August of attempted first-degree intentional homicide of an unborn child. His girlfriend didn't ingest the drink, but miscarried weeks later. So, I mean, the dude clearly didn't want to have a kid with this woman, and he actually has a reason for that, which again is one of those things where you're like, but she still miscarried a couple weeks later. She's like, if he just would have held out, if he just would have held out a little bit longer, things would have been okay. But no. Now he'll be in jail for quite some time. Now the judge also sentenced him to 4 years of extended supervision. Well, he's 45, so he'll get out when he's 22, when he's 67, provided he doesn't get parole. But still, I mean, he has a long life left to live after 67 years, but damn, that's going to be tough, man. Now, he was charged originally in November 2007, but he spent a decade on the run before he was arrested in New York in January 2017. He'd forfeited a $750,000 cash bond when he fled. So think about that for a second. Think about that. This guy was charged 11 years ago. He was out on a $750,000 cash bond that his friends and family put out. And then he bailed. So whatever collateral they put up, whatever cash they put up is all gone. That is scummy. I mean, the attempted murder, super scummy. This is also scummy. This dude is not a good person. But it says here that when he spoke during his sentencing, he expressed remorse, saying, "I've had plenty of time to think about what I did. I have no excuse or explanation for my actions." Well, I don't think he has an excuse, but his explanation would be, I didn't want to go to jail and I didn't want to be a parent. So those are his reasonings behind it. They're not good. They're bad, and he has done nothing but hurt people along the way. But that's the explanation. Patel admitted to obtaining the drug and giving it to his girlfriend when she was pregnant. At the time, he said he justified his actions because their other child had a lifelong medical condition, right? A lifelong medical condition. So the dude's actions right there, like if you think about it from just the perspective of why he did what he did. He didn't want his other kid, to possibly have the same kind of, lifelong condition, which I can understand. Like, I think part of me, I look at it and I'm like, I get it. I don't agree with it, but I can understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, no, dude, you don't do that. He said here he was convinced his child would suffer the same fate, but it's not an excuse. He also wanted to explain why he fled the U.S. for India after he was charged. His father's health seemed to be failing, and he felt he wanted to see him for what he thought would be the last time. It took 11 years for that last time to kick in. He says he came back because he wanted to resolve the matter before the court, saying, "I made the decision to return, even though I knew it would cost me my freedom." Yeah, there's no other explanation for that, right? Which makes me wonder, and I just have to speculate here. It makes me wonder if he decided to come back because he got into more trouble in India, and it was 22 years locked up would be a lot better than what might be coming his way in India. And given how he likes to do things when he's backed into a corner, so to speak, it would make sense that he would pick up his old ways and come back to the States facing incarceration and I guess you could say judgment for what he did is better than what was waiting for him on the other end of whatever. Again, pure speculation, but it's my thoughts. Now, the police first became involved in November 2007 when officers had spoken to his girlfriend about a series of events that took place shortly before her miscarriage about a month earlier. He had known her since 1999, had been in relationships with him at times. They had a child together in 2004, but he denied he was the father. And the woman had an earlier miscarriage in 2006. She got pregnant with Patel's child in 2007, and then he promised he would commit to her. Oh, he committed something. Attempted murder of an unborn child, basically. Now, on September 17, 2007, the family went to a downtown Appleton restaurant and then to an ice cream shop for dessert. Patel bought her a smoothie while she waited outside in the car, but saw him split the drink into 2 cups and frantically stir it. She took the drink when she went to the car but didn't drink it. She then looked closely at the cup and saw powder inside. She even brought the cup back to the store, but the employee said that they don't put powder in their smoothies. So you can see at this point, she caught wind that something was up, right? She sees him acting erratically. She sees him splitting the drink, frantically stirring. She gets the drink, notices there's a white powder, decides, I'm not going to drink this. Takes it back, gets confirmation that they don't use a powder in their smoothies. Now she's suspicious. And then they later ran it by the Food and Drug Administration, and they confirmed that there was drugs inside. After the woman got a restraining order against Patel, they saw him watching her, and then they got him because he was behind the wheel of the car, and he had a pair of binoculars, and he was stalking her. He later admitted to driving by the house despite the restraining order. The complaint said he also told investigators in an interview that he didn't need any more babies and he didn't want any more problems. Yeah. And then, of course, they searched his house here, and they found an envelope with pills of the drug used to terminate pregnancies, which he described as an abortion pill. When he was questioned by officers, the complaint said He told officers he had the pill shipped to him from India and admitted he gave his girlfriend one pill but wouldn't say when or where. So, I mean, this guy says, I don't want no more babies. I don't want no more problems. But the amount of shit he went through to solve the problem, and I'm using air quotes on that one, to solve the problem, is just so stupid. Like, why would you do that? Like, I understand people getting backed into a corner and they act like idiots. This dude acted like a fucking moron, just a dumb fucking moron. And you know what? Frankly, I'm glad he's spending 22 years behind bars. I am. I don't feel bad that this guy's locked up. I don't feel bad one bit. You tried to kill your unborn child. Your ex-girlfriend figured out what you were up to. You ran. You cost your friends and family $750,000, and then you came back because you all of a sudden had a change in conscience. I don't believe it. I think that there's something else that happened that ultimately put him in a much more dire situation, and the American jail system just happened to be something that was more beneficial. Now, this is an interesting one. Again, another story kind of dealing with India. And I'm not going to lie, I had a little bit of trouble believing this one when I first heard it. Man kills himself. Note says a woman pestered him for sex. So just without even jumping into the article here, guy commits suicide. Says this has everything to do with with being pestered for sex by a woman. Now, most people out there probably would go, I don't believe it. But the further you get into it, it makes a little bit more sense. Now, it says here, this is in Mumbai. A 38-year-old man committed suicide when he was as he was allegedly fed up with a woman's persistent demand for sex. Now, how many guys do you know, for one, that would ever be truly fed up with a woman's persistent demand for sex? Oftentimes, you would hear many go, "Oh man, oh no, I love it," but wasn't as it definitely was not the woman he's with. Now, Sachin Mitkari, who worked at a hospital in Pardbani along with the woman, was found hanging from the ceiling of his house last Sunday. Neighbors who found him hanging alerted police, who sent the body for postmortem, said a police official. A suicide note was written by him that was found at the spot. In it, he accused the woman of harassing him and insisting on having a sexual relationship with him. Now, he says that the woman was aware that he was married, but nonetheless was continuously after him, demanding to have sexual relations. She used it to blackmail him by threatening to file a criminal charge against him. And this is coming from the note. Police have registered an abetment to suicide case against the woman. Further investigation in the matter is underway. So that is crazy. That is crazy as shit, right? Dude is at work. Woman works with them. She's thirsty. She's thirsty for the D. Wants it. Continuously tells him she wants it. She knows that he's married. He says no. She thinks he's playing hard to get. Continues, escalates. Then she hits him. You either fuck me or I say you rape me. I mean, that's basically it, right? That's basically it. Just imagine for a moment the amount of stress that would put on a guy. Just the amount of stress that would put on this guy, this 38-year-old dude who is trying to get this woman to leave him alone. And she is like, you either fuck me or I say you fucked me. And it was rape. I mean, that puts him in an impossible situation. So he took his own life as a way to get away from this woman. Now that is tragic. That is supremely tragic. And I hope, and they've registered an abetment to suicide case. I don't quite know what that means. I'm assuming that's like somehow in connection with that she drove him to this act. But that's, there's people out there, man. You figure the title of the article kind of makes it seem like, he's been pestered for sex. Like, oh, what kind of guy would ever kill himself after being pestered for sex when it's a false accusation that's going to be levied at him? And in India, rape is high, right? Like there was a time when it was brutal rapes were just like hitting the country. So, the last thing this guy wants is to like be accused and then there'd be an angry mob that comes after him, because that's happened before. So you can kind of understand, based upon the world he lives in, where that could be a possible potential reality. I mean, imagine that. Like, she threatens you with that. And then what if you tell your wife and your wife doesn't believe you? right? What if you tell your associates and your associates don't believe you? What if you tell people that the situation is happening and they don't believe you? I mean, you could see exactly why things happened the way that they happened. And that even makes it all the more tragic. That in the world of Me Too, in the world of Believe Women, a guy here was facing that down the barrel of a gun, essentially. And he took a way out that there is zero coming back from. That, my friends, is just terrible. Terrible. Now, this one here. Teen shoots cousin over salt and vinegar potato chips. A little bit more lighthearted. No one's dead, thankfully. But over salt and vinegar potato chips. I mean, I've gotten in fights with friends before. Never over salt and vinegar chips. Now, a South Carolina teen shot his cousin in the chest, critically wounding him after warning him not to eat his salt and vinegar potato chips. Saying here, "Don't touch my chips or I'll shoot you," Ryan Dean Langdale barked at the 17-year-old victim before pulling the trigger during a bizarre episode. Now, Langdale's 19, faces charges of attempted murder, using a firearm in a violent crime, and obstructing justice in the September 29th shooting. The suspect tried to cover up the crime by telling police that his cousin had accidentally shot himself by dropping a hunting rifle while cleaning it. Yeah, the old, "Oh yeah, no, he shot himself by dropping the gun." I mean, I have the gunpowder residue on my hands, but like I was just in close proximity when it went off. Not the one that actually fired the trigger. The victim, succumbing to pressure from his older cousin, initially confirmed the bogus account before being rushed into surgery, but the cops weren't buying it, saying here, "We knew from the beginning that something wasn't right. The more we looked into it, the more it seemed odd." Now, the Chief Major J.W. Chapman says here that they noted the route the bullet took through the victim's chest was impossible if the teenager shot himself by mistake. Now, I've heard that same theory attributed to the Kurt Cobain suicide from a long time ago, that the angle of which he killed himself feels off. But you know what they say, where there's a will, there's a way, I guess. Now, a week after the shooting incident, the victim awoke at the Trident Medical Center in North Charleston and admitted to investigators that it was indeed the chips, which he never even touched, that nearly sent him 6 feet under. Man, he didn't even eat the chips. He didn't even eat the fucking chips. That even makes it all the worse. I'm not trying to in any way justify the shooting of this kid. I'm really saying it's "Don't touch my chips or I'm gonna shoot you." And he never touched the chips, never ate the chips, and he's got shot in the chest anyway. Quite frankly, I think that the cousin, when he gets out of whatever trouble he's in, owes him a great deal of salt and vinegar potato chips. Now, after Langdale warned him, Langdale went back to the room, grabbed a rifle, pointed it at him, and then the thing went off. Yeah, because, guns have a tendency of doing that. All right, you always hear those stories. It just went off. It's just, come on. You still took a loaded weapon, pointed it at somebody, and a bad thing happened. I don't really feel bad that this kid's going to be in trouble for his own stupidity. Now, according to the report, he had switched out the firearm he used to cover up the involvement. The rifle was found when they searched his home the next week. He surrendered for the crime, and the judge set his bail at $5,500. So not only did he try hiding the rifle, he chose a different weapon. Now, that's actually kind of smart, to be honest with you. That's kind of smart. I mean, not smart in the traditional way, because if they ran ballistics on the gun and they ran it against the bullet to the gun that he provided, they would see that the ballistics don't match up, and they would then question which gun. They would know at that point that gun did not do that shooting. So I don't really know what he was trying to cover up by switching a hunting rifle for another hunting rifle or a hunting rifle for another gun. It doesn't really make it any better. It's not going to cover up the bullet-sized hole in his cousin's chest that sent him into the ICU for a week. But it's kind of like I have to wonder what brand it is. Is it Pringles? Because they say once you pop, you can't stop. So that could be a reality as well. All right. This next one's wild. Sex Island hooker party promises performance by famous pop star. Yeah, I've been sitting on this one for like literally like 10 days because it still boggles my goddamn mind. Now, a famous pop star will perform at this year's drug and booze-fueled Sex Island party. The guests of the 3-day bash, which costs $6,000 a ticket, have already have access to free booze, a nightclub, a golf course, a gym, and 2 prostitutes a day. Okay, so let's analyze this for a hot minute. This island party costs you $6,000 to get in. It's a 3-day bash. You get access to a bunch of free alcohol, which would make sense for the $6,000, a nightclub, a golf course, a gym, and 2 prostitutes a day. I mean, that kind of seems like a pretty solid deal, to be honest with you. And now they're going to be treated to a superstar who has quote unquote roots in Canada. One of the organizers, only identified as Matthew, says that the experience would never be forgotten. Yeah, if you're dropping $6,000 to go to a sex party island where you get to bang 2 prostitutes a day, my question would be, are they different prostitutes every single day? Are they just, and how many prostitutes are actually there? I have no idea, but it's just a question that I have. And then they're going to bring you a superstar from Canada or that has roots in Canada. I don't know. I just, my immediate first thing is like Robin fucking Sparkle. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Now, he added that this year, one of the world's most popular artists will be performing. It is an American pop artist who has roots in Canada. That's all I can say at the moment. What I can say is that this year's event will be bigger and better. I would hope so. I mean, every year you want to kind of up the last year, so to speak, right? Now, let's see here. The event will be held in secret after Colombians banned it. And you know it's bad if Colombians are banning something, right? Cocaine flows like water and wine through Colombia. But no. Sex party? Can't do it. But cocaine, that's going to be there. Now, each customer of this so-called sex paradise, which operates from December 14th to 17th, is given an unlimited supply of condoms, alcohol, and food, saying that there's at least 2 Latina women for every man so that each man feels like a king. The Sex Islands website says that all the girls are here to please you and make you feel like a king. If you have any special fantasy, make sure to inform the host or the girls and they will make sure to bring them to life. You know, that's never a good thing when you have unlimited alcohol and you want people to feel like a king, which makes them feel invulnerable and that they can do whatever they want. I'm just going to say it now. Some of those hookers are not coming back. I think that's a reality. I think that's a reality that every one of them is going to have to. It's going to be like the Hunger Games for hookers. Only one can survive. And that's not because of a game. That's because you're going to bring some crazy fucking people. It says there are 30 tickets for 30 guests. Each ticket includes the company of 2 beautiful women each day for an unlimited amount of sex during the 4 days of the trip. Okay, so it breaks down to like a little less, $1,500 a day. All right, down in Colombia, 30 guests, 60 women, unlimited alcohol, food, and condoms, a nightclub, a golf course, a gym, and an American pop star with Canadian roots. It's going to be Justin Bieber. It's going to be Justin Bieber. Now, it says, our event is located on a private island. The entire island will be available to our guests. We call it Sex Island. That's a little on the nose. I thought you'd want to maybe make it a little bit, more festive, right? Because it sounds a little bit like, you're going to, it's kind of like when you call up one of those like phone sex hotlines, right? And so it bills your credit card. It doesn't bill your credit card 1-800-BIG-TITS, right? Or 1-800-FAT cunt. It doesn't do anything like that. It's like some weird, name. It's all like, oh yes, it's going to be like Antique Consolidators, whatever, Incorporated, and that's the company. That's the shell company that they bill you through. Here you're not going to like go to Sex Island and get a T-shirt saying like I went to Sex Island and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. I mean, I guess you could, which would be funny. It says here, each day we will have incredible sex activities and surprises, including parties on a luxury yacht, live sex shows, and more. Last year's guests were promised a chance to bed 16 ladies at once and were promised unlimited sex during the getaway. Officials also claimed a mainstream American singer had signed up. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. I don't know who's behind this organization, but the $6,000 is one of those things that kind of speaks to me. And I say that because Mike Cernovich, right? And this is not connected. This is kind of right. He was running this thing where he wanted to, I don't know if he's doing it. It's like his guerrilla mindset club, right? It's this elite organization of alpha men who want to become more alpha and do alpha things all the alpha time. All right, and it was like $6,000 for the year. And there are going to be a couple of these trips that like he would then incorporate the trips, you know? So it's like he wanted to do $6,000. He wanted to do, you know, get these people in. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's entirely possible that this is somehow related to Mike Cernovich. I don't know. Speculation, theory. I don't have any solid evidence of that, but the $6,000 and the elite nature of the getaway sounds like something Cernovich would do, to be honest with you. It really, really, really does. But anyway, also, what was up with that story there? Woman ditches 2-year-old daughter on doorsteps, dines and dashes on the dings and dashes a 2-year-old. That's terrible. Speaking of terrible, this has been a story that's been ongoing all week. Right. I mean, it's even worse now than what this article states, and we'll talk about that. But remains of an infant and 10 fetuses were found in a shuttered funeral home ceiling. Yeah, this is in Detroit. It's in a suburb of Detroit, but it's still just, it kind of just, you heard like, oh, it's in Detroit. Oh, yeah. Okay. Like, I'm not surprised. It says here that, we'll read the update here in a second. But it says law enforcement has recovered the remains of 11 infants hidden in a false ceiling inside a Detroit funeral home that was shuttered earlier this year. The bodies were located in a hidden false ceiling between the first and second floor. This is coming from Detroit Police Detective Brian Bowser. And the police added here that they don't know why the bodies were stowed in the ceiling. Well, let's kind of analyze that for a hot minute. Why would you find bodies in a ceiling? Because there's really nowhere else to put a body. This would be infants and other baby remains, right? Now, oftentimes, and I'm just speculating here, people may have lost their infant and they took it to the funeral home, and maybe they didn't have the money to pay at the end of the day, and the funeral home was stuck with the body. That's an option. Or the funeral home was being shady as shit, took their money, and then just gave them like a something, and then hid the body in a false ceiling in order to collect whatever money they could get from grieving parents. Any way you look at it, it's utterly terrible. Bowser told reporters that inspectors from the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs had received an anonymous letter on Friday detailing how to find the bodies inside the now closed funeral home. When they found the bodies, they called police. So just imagine. So the funeral home was not a funeral home anymore. It's actually being renovated. To turn into a community center. This Naveed Saeed guy, who currently owns the property, said to the news that he helped lead state inspectors to the body. He told them there was at least one body that appears to have been in the ceiling since 2009. So they get a letter saying, hey guys, so listen, there's a false ceiling, and inside the ceiling, you're going to find some stuff. It's going to be some bodies. You're not going to like it. That's kind of that's what it feels like to me. But it says here that 9 of the bodies are badly decomposed, while 2 were in a casket. Some of the infants appeared to have been stillborn. Jamaica LaJoyce Boone, who manages the funeral home the year before it closed, told the Detroit News that she was shocked that there were bodies sitting in the ceiling, saying, I didn't know anything about that. I really don't know how that could even have happened. I don't know how long this has been going on. This is very unfortunate, and they definitely need to find out who put them there. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, when you take the premise for being John Malkovich and you fill that middle level with the bodies of 11 fetuses and infants, You really want to know why that happened, right? You know, some of these appeared to be stillborn. Was it just like, I mean, like, I'm your back alley stillborn doctor? I mean, you pay me money, I'll dispose of the body? And it's just easier to go into this. Again, I have no freaking idea. But the funeral home has been shut down in April over numerous issues, including improperly stored bodies covered in mold, unsanitary conditions, and financial violations. So just based on that one here, why it's been shut down, you almost go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense as to maybe why. Now, there was an update, and it says here that police clarified that the remains appeared to be 10 fetuses and 1 full-term baby. Okay. And they're going to be opening a criminal investigation into the matter, which they absolutely should. But not just that. Not just that. There was another funeral home in the area that they found like 20 bodies hidden. So what I want to know, what I personally want to know, is what the hell's going on in Detroit? Are people just having are they just having abortions, or are they having like the stillborns, and then they just go to these people and then they take the stillborn baby and then they just like, oh, we'll take care of it. You know, they don't want to get caught like hucking it in a trash can, so they stick it in a wall. I for what purpose? I mean, are they waiting for it to naturally mummify, then they're just going to sell it on Etsy? I understand it's a long-term plan, but it could pay off well. I don't know. Is it dark web type shit? What the fuck? I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm literally waiting for these things to just come on out, you know? So okay, this one, here we go. This is a fun one, right? If you ever go to the nude beach, something to consider. Not doing would be going into the water. Nudist beach surfer punches shark to escape attack. So not only is the dude on a nude beach, he's also surfing on a nude beach. A surfer who got bitten by a shark at an Australian nudist beach managed to make his break for freedom after punching the creature until it let him go. Paul Kenny was riding the waves off of Samurai Beach, a naturist spot about 200 kilometers north of Sydney, when he accidentally clashed heads with a toothsome fish, reportedly a wobbegong or bull shark. Saying here, as soon as I did that, he lashed onto my arm, and all I could do was punch it until it let me go. When I let go of it, I saw its dorsal fin 1 meter away. I walked backwards as quickly as I could and caught whatever wave I could, which makes sense. He would, this is a guy who probably would know, like, I'm still in some shallow enough water. Let me just jump on my board and ride it in, right? Just, yeah. I mean, sure, you're leaving a trail of blood. It could be bringing other sharks, but at least you got the natural flow of the ocean taking you back to land where sharks can't go because it's their natural enemy. A local ambulance service spokesperson told the AFP that paramedics treated Kenny for wounds to his upper right arm before he was taken to a hospital. He said he was following in the footsteps of retired Australian surfing great Mick Fanning, who made global headlines when he fought off a shark on live TV while competing in South Africa in 2015, saying here, it's the Australian thing to do now, isn't it? Sure. Be naked on a surfboard fighting sharks. I'm sure it's a fetish somewhere. You, sir, have just invented something new. Be sure to write an erotic series of novels about it to collect your checks and then go home. Now, it says the latest encounter comes a month after 2 tourists were mauled in separate incidents in the Queensland state. Experts say sharks attacks are increasing as water sports become more popular and bait fish move closer to shore, although fatalities remain rare. Well, that's good. That's good that fatalities, remain rare. You figured that at this point in time, technology would actually be able to repel sharks. They would learn of a sound or a scent, right? They would just be able to in the morning before the crowds get to the ocean, they'd be able to lower Rosie O'Donnell down into the water and then just ride her around just in a circle, leaving a scent of Rosie O'Donnell, and the sharks are like, oh, ooh, and then not going anywhere near it. That's what I assume would happen, at least. And in a perfect world, that's how Rosie O'Donnell saves lives. By spreading her fragrance in the water to repel the sharks. She too learned from the 1964 Batman movie. All right, and finally today, this one just seemed weird, so I wanted to talk about it. Man sues Tesco for race discrimination after colleague farted in his face. because that's where we are now. That if you fart in your colleague's face, not only do you run the risk of giving them pink eye, they can sue for racial discrimination. Okay. All right, let's find out more. A Tesco worker has taken the supermarket to court after a colleague farted in his face. Atif Masood, 42, wants £20,000 for the harassment and racial discrimination he allegedly suffered at the branch in Thornton Heath, South London. He said the farting amounted to bullying, and he has not yet received an apology from the supermarket, which he claims failed to investigate his complaint adequately. All right, so this man claims to be the victim of bully farting. Of bully farting. He was targeted. He says here, because he's been with the chain since 2006, that he was targeted because he was Muslim. And they were bully farting him. Now, Tesco disputes the claim, even though they reviewed CCTV footage and found sufficient evidence to support the allegation after reviewing it. Mr. Masood said he received derogatory messages and was insulted with comments including Muslims are terrorists and that he was called a liar, according to the Standard. And that's unfortunate. You should never do that, right? Like, that's stupid. Don't do that. Now, he said he was the victim of unwanted contact, which had the purpose or effect of violating his dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, and or offensive situation. And in the act of breaking wind in the claimant's face, a smelly environment because of his race. That rhymes. I don't know if that's on purpose or that's just natural. Anyway, so the guy says here that it was unwanted contact because it created an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, and offensive situation. Because somebody broke wind in his face. But how? I'm curious how they would break wind in his face. Is he sitting down and they walk by and they fart and then they cup it and they go right in his face like that type of juvenile? That seems more accurate. I mean, I guess if they did that, were they doing that and then also calling him something negative about Muslims? Or was it just, hazing to like get to know the guy? Right. 'Cause some people do that. Some people act that way in order to get to know you. Like, the old saying, if I didn't fart on you, it means I don't like you. I doubt that's the case, but that's an argument that the defense can make here. Now, legal papers stated, for the avoidance of any doubt, the responders deny that they discriminated against, whether directly or indirectly, harassed or victimized the claimant because of, or for the reason related to race, religion, belief, as alleged in the claim, or at all. And a hearing will, in fact, take place next year. So they're like, look, we didn't fart on the guy because he was Muslim. We farted on the guy because he's an asshole. That would be a better argument. That could actually win them the case. Like, no, I don't care if the guy's Muslim. The dude's a dick. He's just a general asshole. So we farted on him. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, you still shouldn't do that, but at the same time, it's like, that's your argument. It's like, no, I didn't like the guy because he was a dick, not because he's Muslim. That's stupid. All right, but a Tesco spokesperson here says, everyone is welcome at Tesco, regardless of their gender, race, background, or education. We are unable to comment on the ongoing legal proceedings or the specifics of the case. Of course, because you can't sit there and comment on the great fart in face case of 2018. When they go to court next year and they sit there and they have those discussions at the hearing, I just imagine like the lawyer, like interrogating the coworker. Pardon me, sir, but how would you describe the flatulence incident? And he's like, oh, right, now, so, like, this guy's a right old cunt, so, like, he's sitting there, and, I mean, like, he's a dick, and I'm like, a funny person. I went over, and I farted in his face. I mean, he's just a cunt. And not because he's Muslim, he's a cunt. Like, I could just imagine that being a thing. And then I'm like, oh, so Your Honor, the defense rests. It's because he's a cunt. I don't know. It's, it's so stupid. It's like, how many times did they fart in the guy's face? Was it once? Was it on accident? Was it like the situation where like the woman getting her butt, like she thinks she got her butt groped by that 9-year-old kid when really it was his backpack? Was the dude, did he just have like burritos from the night before and he just can't handle his Chipotle and it gives him leaky anus syndrome and he's trying to race to the bathroom and he just lets one rip right next to the guy's face? I mean, look, Well, you got to fart. You got to fart. I'm not saying that, there's any other explanation for it. Did the guy, to quote the great Brett Kavanaugh, did the dude boof? Did he boof in the dude's face? That's what I want to know. Why'd he boof? Now, if Judge Kavanaugh was the one overseeing this case, that would come up. Yeah, did you boof in this guy's face? I'll have to keep tabs on this one to find out if Atif Masood wins his 20,000 pounds for the harassment and racial discrimination he claims he suffered at a branch of Tesco in Thornton Heath, South London, or if he is laughed out of the court because somebody boofed in his face. Who knows? Anything could happen on Stranger Days After Dark.